I had just moved to the city, eager to start a new chapter in my life. After days of searching, I finally found an affordable apartment listed on a popular rental website. The photos looked promising, showcasing a cozy living space and a convenient location. Excitement mixed with a hint of apprehension as I arranged a meeting with the landlord to view the apartment. The day arrived, and I made my way to the address provided. The neighborhood seemed quiet and charming, nestled among tree-lined streets. The apartment building, however, had an eerie vibe. Its aging facade held a sense of neglect, as if time itself had forgotten this place. Despite the initial unease, I convinced myself that appearances could be deceiving, and this could be the home I had been searching for. The landlord, Mr. Johnson, greeted me at the entrance. He was a middle-aged man with a worn-out expression and an air of secrecy. As we climbed the creaking staircase, I couldn't help but notice the faint smell of decay lingering in the air. It was a scent that gave birth to a flicker of doubt in my mind, but I dismissed it as a result of the building's age. Upon entering the apartment, I was immediately struck by its peculiar atmosphere. The walls seemed to whisper their secrets, and the floorboards groaned beneath my weight. The furnishings were outdated and worn, reflecting the neglect that had seeped into every corner of the place. Despite the growing unease, I maintained a polite smile, trying not to let my reservation show. As Mr. Johnson led me through the rooms, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. Shadows danced along the walls, seemingly alive with unseen eyes. Yet, I attributed it to my overactive imagination, determined to find a reasonable explanation for the eerie sensations. Just as I was about to voice my interest in the apartment, Mr. Johnson casually mentioned that the previous tenant had abruptly left, citing strange occurrences and a constant feeling of dread. A chill ran down my spine, but I reasoned that it was mere coincidence. People often had different thresholds for discomfort, and perhaps the previous tenant was simply too sensitive to their surroundings. Despite my lingering doubts, I signed the lease and moved into the apartment a week later. As the days went by, an unexplainable sense of unease settled over me. The strange occurrences the previous tenant had mentioned became my reality. Late at night, I would hear whispering voices, faint but distinct, as if coming from the very walls of the apartment. Doors would slam shut without warning, and objects would inexplicably move from their original places. Sleep became elusive as nightmares plagued my nights, filled with twisted visions and suffocating darkness. The apartment seemed to have a life of its own, as if it fed off the fears and anxieties of its inhabitants. I became consumed by paranoia, questioning my own sanity as the line between reality and imagination blurred. This went on for a while. I was ready to move out of the apartment because it was impossible to sleep in such an environment. I questioned whether I should seek therapy or if my fears and nightmares were simply products of my imagination. Then something peculiar caught my attention. Whenever Mr. Johnson wasn't home, it appeared as though the strange occurrences ceased. It felt as if the old man was playing a cruel game with me. I wondered why he would do such a thing, considering I had been a responsible tenant who faithfully paid rent and followed all the rules. Determined to catch him in the act, I devised a plan. I decided to feign sleep, leaving the door to the hallway open intentionally, hoping to witness him moving things and engaging in other unsettling activities. I was determined to expose him. To my surprise, the night passed without incident. Mr. Johnson never entered my apartment, despite being at home.
Damn it.
I waited until morning, feeling exhausted from lack of sleep, and begrudgingly went to work. Frustrated, I resolved to sleep less and remain vigilant. I spent a week closely observing the situation, but nothing changed. Mr. Johnson never showed up, and the objects ceased their strange movements. I started seriously considering seeking help from a professional. Whatever was happening to me was clearly abnormal. Perhaps it was all a figment of my imagination, triggered by the old appearance of the house and its distinct odor. Then, on a fateful night as I lay in bed, tormented by hours of being on high alert, it appeared. A vague, ethereal figure stood at the end of the corridor. It was definitely not Mr. Johnson. I couldn't believe my eyes. Frozen in terror, I could only watch as it gradually dissolved into the darkness. That was the breaking point. Frantically, I packed my belongings, desperate to escape the clutches of that apartment. Slamming the door shut one final time, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I knew I had eluded something far more sinister than I could comprehend. I said nothing to Mr. Johnson, but it no longer mattered. Years have passed since that dreadful incident, yet the memories continue to haunt me. The apartment remains vacant, its secrets concealed within its decaying walls. Often, I think about unsuspecting individuals who may enter that apartment, unaware of the horrors that await them. Now, I share this cautionary tale as a warning to those searching for a new place to call home. Beware of the unseen forces that may lurk behind the doors of rental apartments. For sometimes, the cost of rent isn't merely financial. It can plunge you into a never-ending nightmare from which you may never awaken.